Hello, hello, and welcome again to an episode of Adventures University. Today we're going to do a quick tour on how to create a town on the fly. Regardless of why your adventuring party is in a town that you didn't plan for, they're there, and you need a town 2 minutes ago. So you call for a 5-minute break, tell everyone to go to the restroom, grab a snack, and you start jotting down what this town is. This is the formula that I typically go through when this happens to me. Sometimes I'll even use it for the towns that I have plenty of time because it's a great groundwork to build from. So first and foremost, why does the town exist? Who left the place they lived before to come live here? Was it because the place from before was unsafe and they came here for safety? Was it for religious reasons, kind of like the pilgrims from the England and etc. over to Plymouth Rock? Or were they hired either by a king who needed someone to go and settle for food, or because the town was there and is hiring more people? Like Alaska, for example, gives all kinds of benefits for people to live there because they need people to fill jobs. Whether this is a military organization set somewhere to be a defensive bastion, or someone had a vision in order to come and set up a shrine to a particular deity, or whatever other reason, it can not only dictate a bit of basic history, but can also tell you what kind of structures are there, as well as various uh, landmark features. For example, if it is for defense, whether it's a border town or it's a safer location than this other location that people are fleeing from, either refugees or a little bit deeper in, like Helm's Deep, for example. It was the place where Rohan went when they were in trouble. As such, it was built within a canyon with these massive walls, immense defensive features, that kind of thing. So in your place, whether it's big or small, you can have a castle be the main thing, or a massive wall, or towers. Maybe it's in a bend of a river so that only one side can be attacked that's not by boat. Maybe it's on a massive hill or a cliffside like Jerusalem, things like that. If it's more religious based, put a temple in the center. On top of a hill, there is a shrine to whatever deity this town was settled on behalf of. If it's for farming, then it's in the middle of fertile farmland. You can talk about the simple straw or thatch roofs and things like that. How the main building is the uh, what's it called? The inn, tavern, places where the people can gather and share stories at the end of the day after a hard day of labor. So again, why does the town exist is a big one, but we also need to know who has the power in this town. And I don't mean just the mayor and people. Who are the movers and shakers? Who are the people who make the decisions? This is mostly the people who will be interacting with your adventuring party or your readers, etc. Who are the people whom they need to speak with for work, for lodging, things like that. So the innkeeper may not be a important person in town, but they're probably fairly influential. They'll have information about other people in town, things like that. So that may be one of them. The mayor, absolutely. They'll probably go talk to them for work or things like that. If there's a threat to the town that they just witnessed, they'd want to go tell them. If it's a military town, especially, they'd want to go speak to a military official. They'd probably also be a pseudo mayor, or at least of equivalent power to a mayor. You may want to speak to a religious leader. Even if it's not a religious town, there's typically going to be some form of priest or shrine keeper or something along those lines. Maybe not high level, especially if it's a small town, but the keeper of the shrine is still going to be, like in a medieval town in Europe, there was going to be a number of monks in a monastery, but there would be the local priest at the church, things like that. You'll also want to think about the law enforcement. Who enforces the rules of the people in charge? Does the noble who lives in town have a private group of guards that bully everyone else? Is there a military operation nearby, or is it just a sheriff and a couple deputies? That kind of thing. Again, somewhat influenced by why the town exists, you'll want to think about how many people are there around that can uphold the law. This is beneficial for quests and such. Like if there's only a small number of law enforcement, then your adventuring party could be hired to take care of something that the military or police can't take care of. If it's a large military situation, then they may not have you do anything like defend the town, but they may have you go do a fetch quest or go do a recon thing or maybe assist an escort job. It helps you determine what jobs are available, both the people who are in charge as well as the type of enforcement there is, uh, and also tells you the kind. It helps you know who they would talk to, so that you're not just like this person, that person. This way, you already have A, B, C, and D. These four people I have ready, and maybe even have a few names for them. That'd be part of it, probably. Next thing to consider, where does the money come from? And when I say that, I mean, what do people do to live here? Now, I keep talking about the military outpost or such. Is that what this is? Are people paid to be here to be a buffer against an enemy or the wilderness or something else? Or is it a farming town that supplies the city that's a few days march that direction? Or is it a mining operation in the mountains where there's just massive mines and they smelt here, maybe they smelt in the next town down? Is that why they work there? A close relative to this is, what do people do to live here? As in, where does their food come from? If it's a farming town, then it's pretty safe to assume that they have enough food for themselves, especially if they're supplying food for other locations. But if they are one of the towns that other towns supply to, then it would be pretty detrimental if something happened to that food supply. Again, tying back to the who and the powers that be, quests and such, that could be one of the things that they're hired to do. Where did our food go? Things like that. So again, this ties into why the town exists a lot, because a lot of towns were created with a specific purpose in mind. Mining town, farming town, trade hub. A lot of towns were established on a crossroad or along a river in certain locations so that they could be either a pit stop on the way for people to rest and continue journeys, and in turn, there would be operations for lodging, food, uh, repairing certain goods, general wares, and then, of course, whatever is needed to supply the people who live there to do that. As you explore this information, this can help enrich the town's themes in addition to giving more ideas for quests and things that the players may be able to um, interact with and participate in. History can it can enrich the history of why the people moved here, how the town was founded, things like that. It can also help tell you where they are again, because if it's a mining town, they're probably going to be near a mountain or some form of quarry. If it's a farming town, again, fertile farming land. My last big question to answer is, what do they do in response to danger? Because the world is full of dangerous things, whether it be fraught with monsters or just other people, other nations, bandits, etc. Do they have their own large force, like if it's the military outpost? Is it just that sheriff and his deputies? Do they have walls that they can hide behind so that the danger just passes by? Is it some unique danger that is only in this area and they have a special way of handling it? This question can help further with the general world building for the town, how much military there is if you haven't already decided that, what kind of defensive structures, what kind of enemies are around specifically. Uh, are there other threats that aren't sentient? Maybe the dam has been breaking for a long time and they are concerned about it, and there happens to be someone in your party that knows about dams. You should consider your party when doing these uh, the things. It may seem convenient that they have a problem that your party can very well solve, but maybe it's divine intervention. There can be a religious person here who's like, I told you someone would show up. It was in the stars. Yeah, yeah, old man. But he does have a point. You are the right people for this job. It helps you decide what dangers there are to this town. Um, on top of that, what kind of ways do they have of normally taking care of dangers? Is this an outlying situation? Is this a frequent occasion they just want a little bit of help with? Like the dam breaking, maybe they have a normal budget to keep it maintained, but it's more decayed than normal. So they need an expert and they don't have the funds for that. If it's a border town orcs regularly attack, they probably have sufficient military for that, but they have been getting extra orcs lately, and so they're suspecting something is afoot, so they need someone to go scout it out. Maybe there is an increase in criminal activity, and the sheriff and his couple deputies don't have the expertise to deal with this sort of thing, so they ask for the outside help, some experienced adventurers to help them sniff some things out. And for me, the absolute last step is naming the place. And I do this because a lot of towns are named because of the location or the town's purpose or the person who settled it. So you may decide that the noble who lives in the town is the descendant of the person who founded it. So maybe it's noble's name Ton, uh, Perryton, or Bobston. I don't know. uh, Alternatively, it could be Minetown or Farmville. You can be as creative, or places can be absolutely boringly named. Like Earth. It is literally dirt, the place that we live. If you look at the Wheel of Time, the first town that we're introduced to is the town of Two Rivers. And it's named that because there are two rivers nearby. And how imaginative is that? There's also renaming things like New York, or just straight up, there's like three different Parises in the United States. There's one in Idaho, and I don't know where the other two are. I think there's one in Texas. Then it can also be just a description of what its purpose is. Uh, like I said earlier, mining town, etc. But it could be things like Bright Watch because it's a watchtower, or its main feature is a watchtower where they have to shine a bright light into the dark woods. You could also work in reverse with this, naming it first and then deciding what its purpose is from there. Like if you just have a name that you absolutely adore, you don't need to throw it out. You can create a town around that name. Just don't be afraid to throw out a name if you can't think of anything for it. But maybe keep it in a file somewhere so you can just whip it out. It's like, that works for this location. Yes. But there you have it. That's my quick tips on how to make a town really fast. Now, I have practice with this, so I can literally just go boom, 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 boom. I have a town. I could literally come up with it on the spot. They've arrived, and all right, Alex, where are we? Describe the place. I'll look at my map, decide, well, it's got a river, it's got woods, they've probably got some kind of lumber situation, they probably got a little bit of trade. Ergo, there's going to be the mayor, there's going to be the guild master, there's going to be the town watch because they need to keep those people in all these outsiders under watch. Then there's going to be probably some low-key criminal organization that is part of the smuggling ring for the trade. But this is why I started off with saying, give yourself a 5 minute break. Tell your players to go to the bathroom, get a snack, things like that. Give yourself some time to actually think about these things. Go to Google, get some inspiration. Uh, Decide why your party is there. Is it a fringe town? Therefore, it probably doesn't have a lot of support from its home nation. So they do a lot of scrounging, that kind of thing. I personally thrive off of improv. so I can do things on the fly. But I found that having a formula to go off of is great, especially for people who are not as good at improv as I am. That's all I have for you for today. Let me know if this was helpful or if it wasn't helpful down in the comments. Be sure to like and subscribe. Hit that notification bell for uh, seeing when my next video comes up. And please, thank you for everyone's support, both here on YouTube and on my Patreon. Please go to patreon.com/adventurers university. If you want to support me, I've got multiple tiers, whether it's just $1 or a bit more. And there are benefits on there for those who are supporters. So thank you for listening, and I will see you next time. Have fun.